There is a motion for the preliminary approval of the settlement of the USC antitrust lawsuit. $375 million, which is $40 million more than the original settlement offer. The gross settlement equates to nearly 70% of total compensation the USC paid to its entire roster of fighters during the class period, which is between December 2010 and June 2017. Under the settlement, the average class member would recover, after all fees and costs, $250,000. 35 class members would get over $1 million. Nearly 100 fighters would get over $500,000. More than 200 fighters would recover over $250,000. Over 500 fighters would get over $100,000 each, and nearly 800 fighters would recover over $50,000 each. There needed to be fighter declarations of support for this $375 million settlement, and some of the fighter declarations which were submitted were profoundly sad to read. Like former USC interim heavyweight champion Shane Carwin, who was one of the hardest punchers in USC history, but he also has taken a lot of damage himself. While fighting for the USC, I suffered many significant injuries, including concussions. I fear that during my career, I suffered traumatic brain injury, TBI, and I'm noticing symptoms common with TBI and CTE, including addiction, depression, mood swings, and irritability. Cognitive tests at the Cleveland Clinic Louisville Center for Brain Health and Concussion Legacy Foundation at Boston University, among others, are indicating I suffered damage to the prefrontal cortex and left hemisphere. I spent days in bed suffering from bouts of paranoia, fear, and anxiety. I've been hospitalized twice to treat addiction and have been part of other medical studies studying TBI. To date, no treatment for CTE has been found. He goes on to say, despite having a degree in engineering at the Colorado School of Mines, I have been unable to maintain adequate focus to hold down an engineering job. I face serious challenges in meeting everyday expenses for food, shelter, transportation, and basic life skills necessary to function. This would truly be life-changing money for me and other members of the class. These funds will also allow me to obtain the health care I need to keep a roof over my head and food on my table. The sad reality is the funds years from now may be of no use to me. I desperately need these funds now. Vanderlei Silva also had a declaration of support for the settlement because he says, while fighting for the USC, I suffered many significant injuries, including concussions. I fear that during my career, I suffered traumatic brain injury and noticing symptoms common with TBI and CTE, including depression, mood swings, and irritability. To date, no treatment for CTE has been found. I suffer from sleep apnea and have difficulty sleeping and breathing. I can recall having 4 surgeries on my nose, 1 on my face, 2 on my left knee, and 1 on my right knee, and 1 on my elbow. So this would truly be life-changing money for me and other members of the class. Spencer Fisher, who had a lot of great and exciting fights in the UFC, also had a declaration of support for the settlement. While fighting for the UFC, I suffered many significant injuries, including suffering blunt force trauma, cataract, eye injury that ultimately reduced my vision in my left eye to 5% and required surgery. After the $7,000 eye surgery, I returned to the office for my post-op appointment and realized that I needed a retinal surgery, which is also the result of damage I incurred during my fighting career. I've struggled with my mental health for years and endured several bouts of depression and suicidal ideations that required lengthy hospital stays, including most recently in January, resulting in thousands of dollars in medical expenses. I still need brain scans read due to the lack of resources and funds. I haven't been able to have those scans read. I'm alarmed that during my career I suffered traumatic brain injury and noticing symptoms common with TBI, including depression, mood swings, and irritability. I need urgent medical attention and treatment now, including physical therapy, chiropractic therapy, counseling, and neurological treatment. I've not been receiving the necessary care to maintain my health due to the expense of healthcare, which I cannot afford. In addition to healthcare expenses, I face serious challenges in meeting basic everyday expenses for food, shelter, and transportation. My family has endured times without electricity and other utilities due to my struggles with my mental health, and I have not been able to provide the financial support that my 8-year-old and 2 toddlers need. My wife and I just had our 4th child, and it's been extremely challenging to focus on my mental health, physical health, and especially my financial health to take care of my family properly. My wife deserves better. My family deserves a healthier me, and I desperately need help now, not years from now. Which is why this would truly be life-changing money for me. A couple years ago, one of Spencer's opponents, actually 3-time opponent, Sam Stout, actually tried helping Spencer Fisher by crowdfunding money for him.
Some of the post-head injury issues he's dealing with. He's having short-term memory loss, depression, anxiety, a lot of these issues that are pointing towards CTE, and Wanderlei said that he's unable to work. He's really in a tough spot. So I started a GoFundMe page. That's just to help him with medical expenses, whatever he needs to support his family. Unfortunately, the UFC doesn't have any health insurance for fighters after retirement, and he's just, he's in a tough spot right now.
So the $375 million settlement, if approved, will materially improve the lives of class members, many who are contending with chronic medical conditions, serious financial difficulties, lack of access to necessary health care to treat injuries sustained during their fighting careers. Many cannot meet basic needs and are teetering on the verge of bankruptcy. Still others are unable to create opportunities for themselves and their families. The settlement would, in a very real way, have a material and urgent impact on the lives of hundreds of class members. Like Fernando Bruno, who says, I suffered significant injury to my knee during a bout that was never fixed. My knee and leg are still crooked. I don't have full range of motion, causes incredible debilitating pain. My insurance doesn't cover pre-existing injuries, and I desperately need these funds to alleviate unbearable pain I live with daily. Ayuri Alcantara says, I don't have health insurance and I have not been receiving the necessary care to maintain my health due to the expenses of healthcare, which I cannot afford. I have 5 children, including 2 sets of twins, and take care of my elderly parents in Brazil. Johnny Eduardo says, I don't have health insurance. My family does not have health insurance. During the pandemic, without the support of our trainer, my family would have been without the basic necessities, including food. My family desperately needs these funds now. And Luis Ramos says, currently I face several challenges in meeting basic everyday expenses for food, shelter, and transportation. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I travel around teaching BJJ and my income is unstable and unpredictable. The funds from this settlement would assist me in living day to day. These funds would also enable me to buy a small property to leave for my children. If approved, the UFC will put the $375 million in a settlement fund, and payments will be made in 3 installments. $125 million paid within 3 days of the court's preliminary approval, the next $125 million upon final approval, and the last $125 million by June 30th of next year.